Welcome to the good news, where we bring you the good news by taking your attention away from the news and into connecting with each other and celebrating the continued life of the college. I'm your host, Elisabeth Gunawan. A little bit about me as we'll be going on this journey together for the next hour or so. I'm a member of the college. I am Indonesian and also a permanent resident of Singapore and call both those places my home. I'm not American, in spite of how I speak. It's just because I learned English from MTV. And like many of you, I moved to London to pursue my master's. I go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, where I study acting. And as you can imagine, it's a bit challenging doing physical acting training online. So I'm still here in Mecklenburgh Square, hoping that the doors of RADA will reopen in the summer. But really, this podcast is for our entire community, wherever you may be. Whether you are in India or in Hong Kong or China or Israel or the US or Canada, we are all meeting in the last place where we can still gather, which is our collective imagination. You have just listened to the one and only Yuki Akimoto singing Small Sky by Toru Takemizu. The lyrics of the song goes, "I looked up at the blue sky. The clouds like cotton flew by, and with it a sense of sorrow. I recalled my childhood when I was scolded and I cried. I was scolded for my pranks." Thank you, Yuki, for this beautiful and touching rendition. When I first heard it, it brought tears to my eyes, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Well, it won't be the last you hear of her, and we've got a few lovely surprises in store for you, so stay tuned. So we've got our first guest here, a member of Good Enough College, Nick Fitzhenry. Nick is a South African who moved into the college at the end of last year. He's in London currently doing a master's in economic history at LSE. He's very interested in African economic history in the 19th century and is actually hoping to continue doing a PhD on the subject. Besides his studies, Nick is a fan of board games, photography, and of course, pub quizzes. Back in South Africa, he worked as a quiz master in a Cape Town bar, and he's kept this up by setting up fortnightly pub quizzes at Good Enough, now done remotely. And this has been recognized, actually, even by our member of the month, because he was last month's member of the month. So join me in welcoming Nick. How are you?
Hi, Elisabeth, and hi, Chi. It's really good to be on the podcast. I'm doing pretty well today. How are you guys doing?
We're great. It's really, really sunny outside right now. And there's a new fever in town, hay fever, yeah? They really don't know how to read the room.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, when everyone sneezes or feels a bit sniffly, it does raise more concern than it would any other spring. But yeah, you sort of try your best to stay indoors, and fortunately, that's easier than it would be any other year.
So obviously, I mean, the past few weeks have harbored many changes for everyone, but for you yourself, you know, as someone who's an international student and with a family, you know, so far from you and everything, how have things been for you?
Yeah, it's certainly been a tumultuous few weeks. I, of course, as the news broke that this was going to be a big life-altering event that necessitated a lot of thinking about where one is going to be over the next couple of months. It was, it took a lot of time to consider what would be my best options. Most of my family is back in South Africa, apart from my sister, who's also studying here in the UK. And that really motivated my decisions to stay put and just, to share a close contact with her while we see this through. The other consideration, of course, was the continuation of the college, which I've been very appreciative to allow me to continue staying here, to be, safe and supported. That's been a big difference than I think a lot of other international students have been experiencing in the last couple of weeks. But of course, it's been difficult being far away from my family. My folks are a bit old. Obviously, one is concerned for them, but I think by being in constant communication and just making a lot more time to chat to them has really helped close the distance to a certain degree.
Of course. Well, I guess you need to make sure your lucky sister is going to be listening to this podcast as well.
I'll definitely share it. I'm sure, it would be great.
And it's interesting, right? Because at this time, suddenly there are a lot of activities that used to take up so much of our days that you can't do anymore. And I think what's great about what you've done is not abandoning them, but allowing them to evolve. So like, instead of like, we can't do a pub quiz anymore because there are no pubs, we can do it, but we'll just have to do it virtually. Can you tell us more about how that's changed?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was fortunate. So hosting pub quizzes has been a sort of I've done work. It's been a form of work for me, but also it's a really fun activity. I really enjoy doing it. And it was a lot of fun establishing these quizzes. We ran a couple in Freddy's while we were here before the pandemic. And it was a bit sad to discontinue that, but it was sort of a fun activity, an interesting challenge to see if this could be done remotely. And all of us are kind of getting familiar with these online platforms that, facilitate sort of remote communication and exchange of stuff. And it was fun to try and figure out, could we, take the quiz and, do it remotely, which both would mean that we wouldn't have to gather in Freddy's, but also would mean that with so much of the Good Enough community spread out throughout the world now, many people have returned to their homes, they could participate in it. So it was sort of a fun challenge with, a lot of rewards.
I think you're right. I think also, we are hoping with this podcast, for example, the idea is that you're a part of Good Enough wherever you are. It's a community. It's not really about where you live.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
no, I completely agree. I think it's sort of the sort of refrain, social distancing. Maybe social isn't the right word there. It's more physical distancing, and the effort is to maintain these sort of social communities without that physical proximity. And I think we've had to work to maintain those networks. But yeah, like you guys are doing with this podcast, there are forms and technologies that enable this, which is very exciting.
And I'm speaking maybe a little bit with an outsider's perspective, because I moved to the UK just this past year, and getting kind of introduced to pub culture, which I find really interesting, because I lived in Singapore, where very much the center of socializing was food. So you would have meals with people, it'd be over lunch or over dinner. But pubs are a whole different ballgame, because basically pub hour is from like 4 p.m. until midnight, right? So
yeah,
I'm really curious to hear about, what does one do to go on the journey of being a quiz master at a pub? I think that's really cool.
It was a funny way that developed. Pub culture as well is quite a surprise to me as well. We definitely, there are pubs and bars in Cape Town, But this was really sort of like a weekend activity. It wasn't sort of this thing with, people knock off after a work day or a day of studying, and they, going for a drink with your, colleagues or friends is sort of a ritual. So it's a lot more intense up here. And I think it's also been a lot more intense getting it away. But I there still is in South Africa quite a lively sort of quiz scene where pubs will generally on a quieter night host a quiz night, and they'll draw people into the pub. And it was a really fun thing to do when I was in university in Cape Town. Just gather some friends and test out your trivia. And the pub that we normally go to, it's called the Devil's Peak Tap Room. They had an opening. They were looking for a new quizmaster, and I thought, what the hell? Why didn't I apply? And sort of the rest was history. I mean, it was a lot of trial and error. I consider myself a bit of an introvert, so it took a lot to kind of figure out how to do the crowd work and all that, but incredibly rewarding. Both enjoyed sort of putting on a show, but also collecting trivia and all that for the questions. So it's tremendous. It's been tremendous.
And I'm sure as a quizmaster, you have a treasure trove of just random knowledge that is completely practical in real life, yes?
Yes, highly useful, knowing the capitals of countries that I might never travel to, or just sort of characters from TV series that I watched years ago. It's very practical stuff.
So maybe what might be fun is you could throw out a few quick questions now, and we'll reveal the answer at the end. And I'm partly saying this, hoping that people will tune into this podcast long enough for us not to get canceled.
Okay, I can definitely do that. Fortunately, I always have a quiz book just in reach, so I've taken it down, and I'm going to. I'm going to. Okay, let's see what we can do. I mean, the classic one is a capital city. I won't ask anything about cricket. If you go to a London pub, there's always a cricket question. Okay. This is a good one. Okay, who had a 2002 hit with the song Skater Boy? I quite like that one.
Oh.
Do you know it? Do you want to answer?
Clearly no. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, which fish are said to be packed closely together in the metaphor? That's another one. Shall I give out a third as well?
Good one. Yeah. A third one too.
Okay. Okay, here's a bit more tricky one, but this one goes out to Rafi, who helped me host the Harry Potter quiz. Which comedy actor played Arthur Weasley in the Harry Potter films? Can you give me the name of that actor? So there's I guess a flavor of what I do.
Great. So we're gonna get the answers to those in a little bit. I'm racking my brain as well, especially on questions 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So actually, here's a good tip maybe for everyone at home. What are you doing to build that good old pub atmosphere at home? And it's interesting, right? Because we were talking about this pub culture, which is all about kind of like comfort but also togetherness and coziness. And of course, it changes a little bit with the seasons as well. So any tips for those of us listening?
Well, I mean, so a big thing has been sort of cocktail hour over Zoom with a bunch of friends. So venture out to a grocery store and pick up some booze and some good ingredients. And often cocktails are quite expensive when you go out to a bar, but it's much cheaper to make your own. So it's a sort of fun combination. Sort of people getting into cooking and recipes is a good thing. Now you can just apply that sort of energy to drinking. Look up a new cocktail that you've always wanted to learn to make. Make it with a bunch of friends on Zoom and drink it. I think that's definitely a healthy way to enjoy some alcohol in evenings. But definitely, I I really enjoyed getting on platforms like Zoom and Google Hangout. There's also a really good app called House Party that you can get on your phone. And if you have like 7 or 8 people there, everyone's talking over each other. You're just sort of fooling around and having fun, and no one can hear anything. And that kind of gives a good atmosphere of a pub.
Exactly, just like a pub, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's clearly unsustainable, but I've heard a few people say that kind of during this isolation season, you have to at least once try having a day where you just move on from coffee to wine to cocktails like seamlessly.
Oh my goodness.
Once, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could probably like in between do like an Irish coffee or something. So you combine booze and coffee, and that would make it a very seamless transition.
Exactly. So before we give the answers to the pub quiz questions,
yes, yeah.
Some rapid fire questions for you. So that means just give us the answer off the top of your head, quick. Okay.
Amazing.
Favorite color?
My favorite color is green.
Favorite pizza topping?
My favorite pizza topping is banana.
Cool.
I think that'll upset a lot of people.
I did not expect that. Favorite cocktail?
Yeah. My favorite cocktail is called a Negroni.
Puppies or kittens?
Ooh.
Rapid fire, Fitzhenry.
My girlfriend's listening, so I'll say kittens.
Tiger King on Netflix or Tiger Lily?
I mean, both are covering two creatures with incredibly foul moods. I think Tiger King has been a real salve in the last couple of weeks.
Rat Race or Drag Race?
Drag Race, 100%.
Angela Merkel or Jacinda Ardern?
I don't know what either of those things are.
I guess they're kind of the two like leaders that have really come to the surface. You know, the Chancellor of Germany and.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go with Merkel. Sorry, I didn't quite hear you there.
No, it's funny because you read the news all the time and you never hear it said out loud. I have a feeling I'm saying Jacinda's name wrong, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah,
Angela is, yeah, it always throws me as well.
Last rapid fire question: hay fever or boy fever?
I think I've been experiencing more hay fever at the moment, so that's been more on my mind.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nick, for your time. But first, we've got to hear the answers to.
Of course. So yeah, well, thank you as well. It's been terrific to be on the show and chat to you. This is a terrific idea. Let me give you the answers. So the first one was who sung the 2002 hit Skater Boy? That was Avril Lavigne. What fish is packed closely together? That's sardines. And I believe Richard Griffiths played Arthur Weasley. Sorry, no, that's Vernon Dursley. I don't actually know the answer to that. So if you will bear with me, I will.
Richard, I mean, he sadly passed away a few years back also, didn't he?
He did. He was a great actor. Rafi, if she's listening, will be very unimpressed. He was played by Mark Williams. So that Arthur Weasley. I think he's in this like very BBC show, Father Ted, or something like that. Father Brown, that's the name. So there's a little bit more trivia that might help.
We can look out for more pub quiz questions in your next virtual one, yes?
Absolutely, yeah. I will hope to be hosting one next weekend. So yeah, stay tuned in the members group for that, and I'll post information. I hope to see you there on the team roster.
Amazing. And you know what? Now that you've done this, we need to have another South African as a guest to answer for your answer of a banana as a pizza topping, yes.
Oh dear, you're going to make me very unpopular in my home country. Well, yeah, I mean, as you know, there are no short supply of South Africans in Good Enough, and I can recommend many.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Nick.
Terrific. Elizabeth, keep well and all the best. Yeah, look forward to listening in.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Good News. I'm your host, Elisabeth Gunawan. Join us next time. We're going to have our own friendly neighborhood registrar, Carolyn Persad, for our next episode. And don't forget to leave us your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, any ideas that you want to hear, or any people you want us to interview in of subsequent episodes. Definitely let us know how you feel, what you're thinking on Facebook or wherever you see this podcast published. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and each other.